Hazer listeners, Love is Blind, Season 5, Pods. Let's watch.
Teslas?
No, I like
Did he tell you his favorite color?
Yeah.
The blue, like Oreo. And that's the color of his car. Then I told you like my favorite whiskey is because sushi. Wild turkey honey. He's his favorite.
I mean, it's super annoying to me as a viewer to watch this. It is so annoying. Oh my goodness. So, well, we're not there, but that might say something. Often, when you're looking at behavior, it gets kind of hard to detect what the motivation is. Because if you just look at a certain angle and really squint your eyes, you would maybe just see a friend who is having a lot of exuberance and just really wants to share, just a hyperactive sharer. But it's also, but you have to think about, how does it make us feel to watch? We're not there, and it's edited, and there's music affecting us. You always have to think about that. But we could imagine that she would be annoyed. Because even if it's not talking about Uche, it's just like this onslaught of information that you don't care about, right? Or you don't want to hear. Now, so we think about how Aaliyah would feel, and this would feel annoying, right? You'd have this annoyance, irritation. What is that? Well, it's often because of anger, the larger topic of anger. Okay, anger typically is an emotion in response to injustice upon us, or we're watching injustice, meaning that unfairness is happening. We're being tread upon. And then we wonder, okay, so even though she's smiling and she might be framing this, Lydia is framing this as altruism, like, you should know about this, and he's such a great guy, and his house is so great, you're just gonna love it. So, on the surface, it looks like altruistic, hyperactive sharing and excitement for Aaliyah, like, I'm doing that, I'm excited for you, I'm so happy for you. But if the effect is irritability, anger / unfairness and injustice, then what is actually happening? So what actually could be happening, if those emotions are there for Aaliyah, is not altruistic, but in fact dominance and harm. That she could actually be trying to harm Aaliyah, even out of her own awareness, by bulldozing and not listening to her, and having the veil, the appearance of hyperactive excitement for you. But really what's happening is, I'm establishing that you don't matter. I'm also establishing I don't listen to you. I am making you feel small. I am telling you that you're second. I'm the first girlfriend and you're the second, because you don't even know these things. I'm establishing myself as more in control, and you as small. You could imagine that is the way Aaliyah could feel. We don't know. But even if Aaliyah were feeling that way, she might not consider herself of value enough to actually push back. There's another chance that Aaliyah is only mildly irritated, but she's also curious and enjoys hearing these things. I don't know.
Great.
Oh my God. This is pissing me off. I don't want to know what you have, what car you drive.
By the way, I want to be honest with you. Last time you saw a show was back in January.
Okay. It sounded that way to me. I mean, that should be disclosed to Aaliyah. That should be told to Aaliyah. What time? Are we talking 10 years ago? So they're talking January of this year. So I don't know when this was shot. So it's September now, and usually it's like a year before. So maybe it was, 9 months prior to this or something. Point is it was within the last 12 months that they saw each other. So it did sound that way to me, the way she talked. But yeah, so we're hearing her in the interview, and that is masterful editing right there. She is saying in the one-on-one interview that she's bothered by it. But maybe Aaliyah at the end of this will say, but she's my best friend, so I don't care. Or is she heading towards, and now I'm done? That would be weird, because given everything that had happened, Aaliyah, was just unreservedly loving and caring and valuing of their relationship. It'd be weird if this was the thing that pushed her over the edge, because there were so many other moments like this. Maybe it just brought it into focus for her. I don't know. Let's find out.
And we slept together and all that stuff.
It's just, you had sex 3 months ago, and I'm supposed to feel like that's no big deal. I don't like that. I would never put myself in a situation like this in my actual life.
Okay, 3 months. Yeah. Oh, 12 months, 3 months. So, I'm trying to figure out what Aaliyah is saying. Is she saying, and therefore I hate Lydia? Or this is just upsetting to me?
I did, but for the first days, I felt like emotionally drained. Yeah. Holding back my tears, holding back, trying to
I mean, it's edited, but it wouldn't surprise me if we actually had all the footage of their conversations if it was like this, where Lydia is just self-centeredly yammering without any care for, in the past, their conversations weren't about Lydia's relationship with Uche. So Lydia might be talking about Izzy or something. And for Aaliyah, she might be like, well, I'm just being here for my friend and I'm listening to my friend. I'm a good friend. I'm a good listener. And she has a lot of thoughts. She has a lot of emotion. I'm listening to her. But now we're hearing detailed information about Uche. Everything under the sun is coming out after she has communicated 2 times, you could say 1.5 times, that she doesn't want to hear anything about Uche. And even if that wasn't stated, you just think your friend would say, this is probably too much information. I don't want to burden you with this stuff. Or is it okay if I talk about this? Because I kind of want to talk about it. So, just some consideration of Aaliyah, that maybe that's the contrast of like, well, before I was just being a good friend. Now I'm like, what's happening? And it rewrites the whole history of, she's been doing this the whole time. Am I even in this room? Do I matter?
Loud. It's because in that pod, we had just decided like we were going to start from 0. But then I was like, we have the advantage of seeing each other. He's like, but then the experiment won't be real.
Yeah. I don't know if I can handle.
Okay, either she knows she's lying or that's just how she remembers it. And if that's how she remembers it, it could have just been, memory is weird, or because of a personality trait, she hears everything is filtered through grandiosity and self-centeredness and self-elevation, that, because that's not what I remember. Let's rewind. What did she say?
We had just decided like we were going to start from 0.
We had decided that we were going to start from 0. No, that was not what happened. She propositioned, well, let's go to the tape.
No way.
Uche, how you been?
I've been great. This is kind of,
Yeah, it really changes if you know this was 3 months ago. When Lydia was playing that game of like, you don't recognize my voice? So when I first saw that scene, I'm just like, well, the pods, it's out of context. But yeah, 3 months ago, you would think, so you don't recognize my voice? And she does have a distinct voice. She even admits that, right? So, or she stated that.
Unexpected?
this is unexpected. I don't know. I don't know if it's a sign or if
Right. Is this a sign that we stop shoot, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cut the crap. Do you want to start?
I mean, I guess he did say that. He's like, I don't know if this is a sign that we should actually be together. So there was that.
Zero? A blessing in disguise?
I don't think we can do that, because that kind of, it ruins the.
And then she says, do you want to start from zero? And he says, I don't think we can do that. So given what he had said just before that, you could see how she might conclude that he was considering it, even though he did say, I don't think that's possible. But just before that, he had said, is this a sign? Okay, all right.
Experience
The
in the moment?
experiment, yeah.
So you don't think it's even worth it to even get to know each other more?
I don't think it's like genuine from the experience, because we already know what each other.
Oh my God.
Looks
How are
like.
you going to feel if I get engaged and you see me with somebody else? How are you going to feel?
I don't know. This really caught me up.
Yeah, it's interesting. The first time I saw her say that, I thought, well, they probably just had a casual relationship years ago, but given what we know now, it might have been more intense than he describes it, but I don't know. All right, so let's go back to the part where we're...
It's because in that pod, we had just decided like we were going to start from zero. But then I was like, we have the advantage of seeing each other. He's like, but then the experiment won't be real.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's a fair-ish representation of what happened. Although she overemphasized that we decided that we were going to do that, we were going to get together again. And at the very least, even if you thought that to be true, which I think she does, you don't say it to Aaliyah. Why? What possible reason would you say that? Unless you thought, you got to watch out for this guy because, he's a player. But I don't think that's what she's saying. I think she's literally trying. She either is so, given her traumas and her upbringing and her personality traits that she has as an adult, has led to her being so self-centered that she just doesn't even notice what's happening outside of her own head. That happens. That's a possibility. Or she is oblivious and out of touch with normal socializing, which I'll add to the hypothesis list, but I don't think that's true, but could be. Or she actually is trying to she's trying to hurt. She's trying to say to Aaliyah that we're the same, that we're both in a relationship with him, or that I'm not lower than you, or I don't know. Why would you be talking about this right now? Why would you say that?
We're gonna laugh about this in, I don't know, 3 years from now.
It scares the shit out of me because it's like, it's what I prayed for,
And it's happening. Listen to me. It's happening. It's happening, you know what? For both of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? Oh, wait. Is she referring to Milton? Or is she referring... For both of us are with Uche now. She's referring to Milton, right?
The part that upset me was that she said you considered starting from ground zero.
Considered starting from ground zero. That's not exactly.
Well, they did say ground zero, but that is an interesting phrase to fit in there, right? That we're going to start from the site of the disaster and build from there.
What happened.
Did you not tell me about the full conversation in the pod because you were actually considering rebuilding with her?
No.
So we went back and rewatched, and he did say, is this a sign? So was that him saying that he was considering starting from ground zero with, I have a dog here on my face, with Lydia, or was he just shocked and saying things? Was he trying to be nice? Was it just a question that popped into his head that he quickly answered, and so like, oh no, that would be dumb. I mean, I'm guessing Uche would say that because before going on the show, he probably knew that if he wanted to be with Lydia, he could go back to Lydia because Lydia was in love with him and wanted to be with him. And they don't sound like they broke up in a really horrific way, so that door was probably potentially open. So I think that starting from ground zero was available to him prior to coming on the show. So he came on the show looking for someone else. He was frustrated. In fact, his relationship with Lydia could have been the motivation for him to come on the show. He's just like, I got to stop dating in the normal way. I have to break, So I'm guessing for Uche now, but could Lydia have interpreted what had happened in that direction? I will allow for that, particularly when you add in memory lapses. But she seemed to actually describe it pretty closely, except for the leap that she said, we were going to start over.
I don't have any feelings for Lydia. If I wanted to be in a relationship with Lydia, I would be in a relationship with Lydia.
Right. You could elaborate on that a little bit of just like, before coming on this show, before coming in the experiment, as we call it, I knew that I could have gone back to her, and I didn't want to. I broke up with her because I'm not in love with her. I knew we weren't a match. So yeah, I'm guessing, hopefully he explains that enough for Aaliyah to absorb that, because I think those are the facts right there. Oh, and another thing is that Lydia, once again, is having problems with enmeshment and boundaries and lack of differentiation, saying we. Well, we don't know, actually. I can't say that. That there's a possibility that in in light of the other things that she said in relation to Aaliyah about, I'm just like you, we're the same, and those kinds of statements. And that is a tick in the column of potentially undifferentiation and a pattern of that. It could just be the way she talks. But then when she recalls this event, she wanted to rekindle. And so because of a lack of boundary, and you'll hear that. You'll hear people who lack differentiation, when they recall a story that you were involved in, they will rope you into it. You'd be like, don't rope me into it. I was there, but I didn't. You were doing, that was you. That wasn't me. And because they don't differentiate between themselves and other people. They remember themselves being that way, and so they just generalize that to everyone that was there.
Friend's ex. I would never befriend your ex.
You don't think this is hard for me? I mean, it's happening to me just as much or even more than it's happening to you.
No, it's not, because I'm over here sitting with your ex that you fucked 3 months ago.
Yeah, I think the only thing you could criticize Uche about is he could have told her earlier. He could have told Aaliyah earlier. So I think what Aaliyah is saying is, if you could have told me, I wonder what she's saying. Is it, I wouldn't have dated you, Uche, if I knew, or I wouldn't have gotten so close to her if I knew.
She's telling me things that I didn't want to know from her. It's just like, okay, I get it. You dated him.
This is interesting because I keep looking for the assertiveness and the anger, and we're seeing it now. Where was it in relation to Lydia? She's able to do it with Uche, which makes me think she feels safer with Uche, because that would be the implication. Why wasn't she saying this to Lydia? And why is she telling Uche about it? It's just, well, what? Okay. What do you want me to do about that? I'm sorry.
You fucked him.
Yeah, I know that sucks. It fucking sucks, okay?
I'm fucking like in a cage with her, damn near. I just didn't want to know.
I wonder, so cage, I didn't want to know. I wonder if she's emerging into her assertiveness with Lydia, or she's revealing that in the midst of a charismatic leader, she is cultivized into submission with Lydia, because not only is she stuck with Lydia, but she's imprisoned by the experiment. She can't go home. She doesn't have her phone. She's in a cage, either in this compound or in the hotel that they go to. So, that would be pretty awful, right? So maybe for Aaliyah, she's like, when we get out of this cage, I'm going to rethink this. But while we're in the cage and I'm with the monster, the tiger, I'll just play along, because if I really start to go there with the anger, then this could get weird, and then I'm stuck in a cage with a tiger. You know what I mean? Now, I don't think Lydia would try to harm Aaliyah if Aaliyah asserted herself, but this is part of that dynamic where they both play a role in the strangeness, where Lydia does her thing, but Aaliyah also does her thing, instead of saying, hey, because if Aaliyah was a good friend, she would alert her friend, who they have professed so much love for each other. A good friend would say, so you're bothering me right now. You're threatening my affection for you. I want to alert you to that. I want to save our relationship by telling you what's happening for me right now. That's a gift you give to people, but you have to have relatively limited barriers to being able to say that, right?
I know that this is hard for you right now, and I can't even imagine what you're going through and what you're feeling, but I think it's about me and you, establishing our connection and not letting anything get in the way of that.
That was well said. That was off the cuff. That was it was good. I mean, if I were Aaliyah, I'd be like warming up a little bit, but she can have her own reaction. Let's see what happens. There's all sorts of things you can imagine people in reality TV saying, and he pushed past it. You know, you let things go past you instead of. It's kind of a trick in conflict is if you're trying to work it out, things might come at you that you feel like, hey, I need to defend myself on that. But if the overall goal is to come together or calm down or establish a bond or to create goodwill or resolve the conflict, you might have to let certain things kind of go past you without directly addressing them and zoom out a little bit and speak to the landscape a little bit, depending on the situation. But he did that, and he did that pretty well. That's a skill. It's a skill of differentiation because you'll have the ammunition will be coming your way, and if it really, really hurts and you can't evaluate your feelings, then all you know is the hurt and you must defend, right? But if you can differentiate and you can notice that hurt, but go, well, but if I do that, that's not ultimately what I want. Ultimately, what I want is to be with Aaliyah. So what's the way through the wilderness here? And so he spoke to that
vision of what we want out of life and what we want out of a marriage and our core values. And you make me happy when I talk to you, and you make it easy for me to open up to you and to be vulnerable with you. We can go home, we can give it all up, but that's not what I want to do.
Again, a pretty good response, not super warmly delivered, but when other people on these shows are put to task that way, they don't necessarily deliver very well. I mean, just think about Johnny's response to Chris, you know, when she was trying to win Chris back, just think about the lackluster things that she was saying. You know, that was above average for sure.
Yeah.
I'm here for you, and that's all that matters to me.
I know. I'm here for you too, and I want you. I don't want you to doubt that.
Okay. So, I mean, it seemed like it was heading in that direction because she was in the room expressing things to him anyway, right? If she really hated him, she just wouldn't even do that. And she is a very nice person, so there's that. But then I worry. But now what about Lydia? Maybe this was just kind of an expression, and which is normal, but in the end, she's still very good friends with Lydia, and she just has to deal with Lydia's quirks. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Everyone, please take care of yourself, truly, because you deserve it. You truly do.